I committed a murder last year, and I did it in broad daylight. No panic, one clean strike. People always ask me what it felt like. The truth, it felt a little thrilling, a little terrifying, and completely irreversible. My victim never saw it coming. We had a bond, we had history. I shaped them, cared for them, poured myself into them, and then I ended up killing them anyway. The internet witnessed my crime. But before anyone calls security, I should probably clarify that my victim was my English essay, my favorite one I had ever written. I worked on it for hours and days on end. I planned it in my blue notebook. I even came during my free time to edit it and perfect it. I made sure every word aligned with who I am, where I stood, what I felt, and what I believed. I put a lot of effort into that assignment, maybe even a little too much for a school assignment, but I was proud of my work. And then English class rolls around, and Dr. Matthew Gilmore, my sophomore year English teacher, announces the next step. Delete your essay. Delete it? Kill your darlings, he said. And at that moment, honestly, it felt like being asked to commit a crime. So I stared at these words and was one delete button away from completing half the assignment. Yet a part of me resisted. I just couldn't. No matter how hard I stared at these words or how close I got to pressing that button, something stopped me. To me, that assignment was one of the hardest assignments I had to complete, to write, then delete my essay and start all over again. Because when I do something, I give it everything, every bit of energy, every thought, and every part of me. And that's why it was hard, because I had held onto that assignment. And I think we've all been there, when you hold on to something not because it's perfect or ideal, but because you poured yourself into it. If you haven't experienced it, it's really hard to explain. It's like working hard on something until it stops being work and becomes a part of who you are. And somewhere along the way, I had also allowed that essay to validate me more than it ever should have. Because in my case, and many other students, and maybe even you guys in different ways, we get validated for producing something. Turn it in, wait, and a number appears. And somewhere along the way, that number stops being feedback and becomes proof. Proof that you're capable, proof that you're doing something right, proof that you deserve to be confident. It gives us certainty about our worth. It validates us. I confused what I created with who I am, so letting go didn't feel like growth. It felt more like loss. And one night, as I was laying in bed, scrolling through my phone, unable to sleep per usual, a message popped up from my friend. It was a picture and a text underneath it saying, 3 years ago today. The picture was a selfie of me and my two friends after school, unpaused, unplanned, raw, and so natural. The picture looked like it was taken by accident. My friend and I, looking at the picture, burst out of laughter because of how young and horrible we looked like. That picture was taken back in 8th grade, back when we barely knew anything about life or ourselves. And as I was admiring that picture, I remembered another photo of the three of us again, taken last May. It was the same people, only this time it felt a little different. We were standing together, visually older and more polished, almost like we were trying to recreate something we had lost. That picture was taken 3 years after the first. In fact, it was the first picture of the three of us together ever since 8th grade, because summer of that year is when everything started to fall apart. And that picture doesn't mean that things went back to how they were. No, it was more of a formation of peace. A moment where we had outgrown our problems, forgiven each other, and accepted that we were no longer the same kind of friends. Now, we're distant friends. And as I scrolled back and forth between both pictures, the differences hit me harder than I ever expected. At first, I noticed how much longer my hair had gotten, and then how much taller my friend became. Small physical changes. But it didn't stop there. I realized what truly changed was who we were to each other. That first picture captured three that meant the world to each other, whilst the second captured three standing together, just not in the same place. And that was the first time I realized what it truly means to outgrow a moment and the people in it. And not gonna lie, I felt sad nostalgia hitting me like a truck in the space between both pictures. But then I asked myself, if I had the chance and opportunity to go back to who I was in that first picture with the same circumstances, would I go back? And the short and simple answer is no. Going back to who I was in that first picture, that frightened me. I don't want to go back to the version of me who prioritized others over her, even when it hurt her. Who couldn't tell the difference between a good friend and a harmful one because she assumed the best out of everyone. I don't want to go back to the version of me who didn't know her worth and allowed others to determine it for her. I don't want to go back to being naive, emotionally unaware, and unaccomplished. But do not get me wrong, I love that version of myself, and without her, I wouldn't be here. But as much as I love her, and I miss her, as much as she doesn't serve me anymore. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, what it truly means to kill your darlings. Not because they weren't beautiful, no, but because holding on means staying the same. Killing your darling is a concept way bigger than letting go of friendship or deleting an essay. It is actively and intentionally placing yourself in discomfort, letting go of things even if it hurts, because it's better for you and perhaps those around you. It's letting go of generational trauma, breaking cycles of anger and fear, even if it's the only thing you knew growing up. It's stopping smoking, self-sabotage, and silence. Habits that you swore you could control, habits that you called comfort, when it's really just a way of staying numb. It's letting go of a job or a major that you don't love, one that makes you look accomplished but doesn't make you feel whole. It's letting go of that version of yourself that stayed silent to be accepted and small to be loved. And as for me, it truly does terrify me to lose the things that make me, to edit my beliefs, my thoughts, my emotions, my habits, my relations with people. But there's something that terrifies me even more, something that haunts me. To stay the same, to be limited, to be average, to find comfort in what I've already written. Because now, I can't imagine going back to who I was 2 years ago, 1 year ago, or even a couple months ago. Back then, I had pressed delete, and I deleted my essay. But at that time, I didn't know why it was so hard. And instead of staring at words, it was replaced by the whiteness of the document. It felt empty, but liberating. It felt good not being constrained by anything for once. And ever since then, I became scared of not killing my darlings. Because I trusted myself and in my ability to create new ones. But of not separating who we are from what we hold on to. Killing your darlings applies to everything, not only texts or relations with people. And to be a human is to evolve and to create. To be a human is to be a creator of darlings, a creator of habits, new thoughts, new ideas, new emotions, and new versions of ourselves. Last year, I committed a crime, and nothing happened. No one stopped me, no one even noticed, and the world didn't fall apart. And letting go most certainly did not make me disappear. I pressed delete, and one day you will too. But for now, let's take a moment to think again. I want you to think of someone, a person, maybe a habit, something that is very dear to you. It truly can be anything, and if it helps you, you can close your eyes. Think about them, something that without you don't feel whole. And now, I want you to be very honest with yourselves when answering this question. Are they holding you back in any way, shape, or form? If the answer is yes, then congrats, at least you're self aware. But now, the true question lies in, are you holding on to these things intentionally or fearfully? Because maybe now is your time to kill your darlings too. Thank you.